Hope to see it's 16:30. Okay, it is 4:30 and I'm calling the meeting to order. And acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, Tla-o-qui-aht. Notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. Notice to virtual attendees to sign up for public comment and question period using the Q&A function in Zoom. To register, participants are required to enter their full name, residential address, and the agenda item they wish to speak to. Through the unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that pursuant to section 11(1) of the District of Tofino Meeting Procedure Bylaw number 1229/2016. The temporary facility provided for the public to watch and hear the November 26, 2024 special council meeting is to be held in the multi-purpose room at the Tofino Community Hall located at 351 Arnett Road in Tofino, BC, and that the meeting is to be held electronically via Zoom and live broadcast via the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. No objection, that motion is carried. Also through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I move that the November 26, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be adopted. Seeing no objection, that motion is carried. The consent agenda. If there are no objections, I move that item 4.1 to 4.2 of the consent agenda on the regular council meeting held November 26, 2024 be approved and received. Seeing no objection, that motion is carried. Moving on to mayor's reports. One item, I just want to commend the community for facing the power outage and road closure with resilience. I do know that some people were able to walk around. Some people had opened their homes to residents, and unfortunately, some people had to stay in their cars overnight. It was the first time, my understanding, that the emergency route connector trail was used. And I know that the ambulance did use that for emergencies, emergency personnel did use that. And I just think that is a fantastic addition to our community. And it was a result of good foresight on our planning department and infrastructure to have that built for the wastewater treatment plant conveyance. You know, these emergencies are always a time to review and refine community and emergency response. And I'm just thankful that there were no injuries. It appears the loss of property or damaged property was manageable this time. So thank you to all involved. Public comment on agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor Law. I will now make an open call for comments to both members of the public present in the gallery and those attending online. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there is anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to make a comment, you can do so now using the Q&A function. Before making a comment, you will need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you're speaking to. I will now do a call calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. No comments, Mayor Law.
Super. Then we'll move on to item 9, correspondence. 9.1, Union of BC Municipalities regarding John Horgan. And this is the LGLA open for registration. And looking for council members who would like to go to the Local Government Leadership Academy. Councillor Sawyer. Any other takers in Richmond? Did we hear from Councillor Sloman at all on this one? No. Okay. All right. I do have a draft motion to send Councillor Sawyer. No other takers? All right. Then I'll move from the chair that Councillor Sawyer be authorized to attend the 2025 Local Government Leadership Academy LGLA Forum at the Radisson Vancouver Airport Hotel in Richmond, BC between March 12th and 14th, 2025 and be reimbursed for costs in accordance with the District of Tofino Council Remuneration Bylaw number 1254/2018.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Thomas. All in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. Great. Okay, moving on to second correspondence. We have the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and this is the open. Now this, there's a little bit of change in this one. I guess I could have made a change. This, the agenda states the Sustainabilities Conference, and I do have a draft motion that would allow me to go, but I would prefer to go to the annual conference in Ottawa. So if council is amenable to changing this item up a little bit. I do have a draft motion. Comments? Okay. I think Ottawa is more suitable for our strategic plan. Go back comment on that. So I'll move from the chair that Mayor Law be authorized to attend the Federation of Canadian Municipalities annual conference in Ottawa between May 29th and June 1st, 2025, and be reimbursed for costs in accordance with the District of Tofino Council Remuneration Bylaw number 1254, 2018. Second by Councillor Steer. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Forward to that conference. Moving on to presentations reports, we have an invited presentation from THC, Mr. Scott.
Good evening, everybody. Or late afternoon. Nice to be joining you once again. It so happened I had a bit of time in my schedule when THC was looking for some additional support for those councillors who I haven't presented to before. Good evening. Nice to meet you. Obviously, I don't have the luxury of having been involved over the past year or so with Tofino Housing Corporation, but have had experience previously. So I'm going to try to be pretty brief tonight in presenting the Tofino Housing Corporation's 2025 Affordable Housing Plan for MRDT. This is an obligation that we have in association with the District of Tofino through the agreement with the District of Tofino, whereby you pass along the MRDT funds collected through the online accommodation platform, money that comes in, distinct from the money that comes in through regular hotel guest stays in Tofino. And we use that money at the Tofino Housing Corporation to facilitate the development of new affordable housing. I'm just going to share my screen briefly. Assuming somebody will jump in and speak up if you're unable to see the screen. Just wanted to talk quickly to the 2024 highlights from the Tofino Housing Corporation. Both Headwaters apartments are now finished and almost fully occupied. There are still 4 vacant units in the Headwaters South building that Catalyst are looking for appropriate and qualifying households to fill. It sounds like they've selected or have a line on some of those units to be filled. They are still looking for households to fill some 3-bedroom rent geared to income units. Households who would qualify would have to make less than $83,500 per year to meet the BC housing requirements, and then of course meet the local working and living requirements that's on housing agreement and association with THC and Catalyst. Another highlight of this year is this is the first year that THC fully operated the Mount Colnet Villa, the seniors rental housing. And the corporation is still in association with BC Housing, working through completing some needed capital upgrades, things like the back patio, some of the heat pump units, and trying to stabilize the operations there. The second strategic plan for THC was completed this year. It's still not up on our website, my apologies, but it's something on the to-do list. Really, it's identifying the role and accomplishments of THC and what we're looking to achieve over the next 3 to 4 years. The duplex lots, and I put that in quotes, the duplex lots on Peterson Drive, so that's the 2 lots on the north side of the road or the left side of Peterson Drive as you walk up towards the Headwaters apartments, have been cleared. The hydro is now installed and ready for both lot 3, 4, and 5, which THC sold to a private owner to raise some money for future housing initiatives. And a rezoning process is underway and received permission to proceed from council to turn those duplex sites into really duplex with suites to 4-plex sites. And that process is underway, but as well, after finishing most of the clearing and getting that infrastructure installed, now doubling down on the process of finalizing the design and construction drawings for those sites. Also in 2024, THC began working with the District of Tofino on identifying additional future development sites. An architect was selected through an RFP process to work on preliminary feasibility designs for up to 5 sites. Really, that's a process to identify which of the districts and our kind of shared resources would be most appropriate to do the next phase of developments. Part of that process is funded by THC funds, but also from some Housing Accelerator Fund dollars from CMHC that the district received. And the goal is to have at least 21 units under building permit by January 2026. So a future phase of THC development. Switching to the 2025 plan, first wanted to highlight some of you who have been on council longer will have seen similar graphs before, which is the OAP portion of MRDT really dipped for unknown reasons, or strongly unknown reasons, I guess. Obviously, there was a pandemic in 2020 and 2021, but the OAP revenues dropped much more significantly than the regular MRDT taxation. It is recovered now substantially to the extent that it looks like by the end of 2024. So one more contribution period, the amount of money being allocated to THC and our work on affordable housing will be about $600,000 in 2024. So really opening up some opportunities and flexibility going forward. And that then tracking that number is the basis for the plan. And to supplement where we're at with the OAP funds, there was the process of selling Lot 5, which was partly required because of the uncertainty of the MRDT revenue sources, but also a loan that was taken out to finish the infrastructure and road portion, and needing to be certain that we could pay for the bills that were coming in during that construction process. But really what it means is
we
going
lost sound on you for a moment.
I thought he was just taking a break there. I was reading, carefully reading.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh,
Your sound is gone. Is it on your side? We're not getting the, can you say something? We'll see if it reads it out.
okay, he just.
Trying that again. Can you hear me?
There we go. Perfect.
It's the gremlin of the world. I was on this slide, I think. Again, please jump in if you can't hear me or you lose me completely. So the funds that we have left over, as well as the anticipated $650,000 in additional MRDT revenue in 2025, really positions THC for the next round of investments in THC and Tofino housing. The plan that is on your agenda and will be submitted to the province allocates $400,000 to the library with housing above project, and more on that in a second. The Peterson Drive fourplexes, which we are focused now on delivering primarily as essential worker rental housing, that's $100,000. The future site selection, kind of initial feasibility design, and moving some of those designs to the next stage, $125,000, and then $25,000 to ongoing monitoring of both headwaters and creekside and catalyst obligations there, some participation in regional, dialogues and conversations, and also seeking new, partnership opportunities should and where they arise. Key outcomes for this year would be having the fourplexes under construction, the library plus housing under construction or close to. I've got that in brackets because it might be a push to be under construction by the end of 2025. And then the next sites selected and under design. And I just caveat all of that at the board meeting last week with the THC board members. We did talk about the ongoing need to be cognizant and understanding how headwaters and creekside and other private developments have changed or impacted both the supply and the demand for housing, and not continuing on the effort to build housing to continue to make a difference in the lives of people living in the community, but also businesses operating, but also not going too fast and building homes and having empty units. While that would be an amazing luxury for the community, it would also be a financial pinch for those doing that development. I don't think we're anywhere close to that point yet, but you do have to keep your eye on the ball. The library and housing project, I think council's aware that you have said yes to the possibility of using the lots in behind Municipal Hall for a library. We have pushed that opportunity or option to have housing above it to BC Builds, who are looking at a massing model as well as a pro forma to do either a 3 or a 4-story development, likely on both lots to make it financially feasible. And so in that, what we're considering are some of the design factors, which is one, that these lots have been used for parking and in the summer months especially, form a critical need for offshore parking. You can see the 2 pictures on your screen. One is a Google Street View from May of a few years ago. Parking's kind of half full. The other picture is a November photo from this year. So it's really a resource that gets intensively used in the summer, which makes sense. But how might the design incorporate continued public parking access? There is almost 1 story of slope from the south side to the north side of the lot as you go kind of at the diagonal. So you're almost 1 story down from one corner to the other. With the sewer project, let's be honest, it's a bit of an awkward street front now on Main Street. How do you incorporate that into the design, as well as what requirements or maybe room to not make the project fund all of the Main Street infrastructure and frontage improvements that are required. There is some deficit in the stormwater infrastructure apparently, but also what does that street front look like? Does the development just do its frontage, or would that frontage improvement be incorporated into a bigger District of Tofino Main Street upgrade project? So really it's about a wait and see, but if BC Builds is keen, the library has allocated money to do a library, 1.7 million. So this project could quite conceivably pick up steam really quickly. The fourplex project, some of you may have been up there to see the lots that are mostly cleared. It's being designed for 8 2-bedroom units, just under 700 square foot each, most likely rental. And also we're asking BC Builds whether they would like to support the project. The design, these are smaller sites. There's 1 close neighbor that needs to be worked with and considered. And we do have both challenging rock and grades to work with, which raises the costs of the project a bit, but that is the land we're working with. Just before I close, wanted to say that BC Builds, there's a lot of hype about BC Builds, but do want everyone to be cognizant of the fact that really we're talking about mostly market rate housing with nonprofits and folks like THC being able to get some additional grant support from BC Builds to deliver 20% of the housing at 20% below market. It's really a program designed really at that workforce, the workforce need, as well as just increasing rental supply that over time may become more affordable. The other component of BC Builds is if you bring resources to the table, you can then deliver more affordability. And so the question on both of these sites is some of the investments like the land, like some of the money that THC has, if that is allocated, does that turn the project just into being selectable and viable versus allowing for additional affordability if we layer on the funds that BC Builds brings to the table? Those are all questions that will need to be answered as we move forward. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions or say adieu this evening. Thanks.
Super. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Great. So it's lovely to see you again, by the way, here in front of us. I'm going to open it up for council for questions for Mr. Scott. And you can throw in a comment too, if you like. Councillor Steer, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ian. Good to see you again, and thank you for coming on board and helping us out here. It's much appreciated. Thank you for the presentation, and I think you answered most of the questions. I did have one, and it's regarding Mount Colnet Villa. And thank you for the update on that capital, a little bit of stabilization work. And I'm looking to see, and I noticed in the 2025 budget allocation that there's nothing in there, and I'm just wondering if there has been conversation in terms of the, and I don't know, in terms of the potential for expansion, or to look at that site in maybe a different way, to include, of course, the senior assisted housing as much as possible. Is that something that has been discussed? Certainly not for 2025, and I'm just curious to where maybe that might lie.
I haven't personally been involved in any recent discussions, but I believe the previous ones are probably still relevant and accurate. So there's a few factors there. One is, I would say that the building still has some useful life. And a key decision point on a building of its age is really the building envelope. At what point does the full building envelope, windows and siding, etc., need to be upgraded? That's a costly project. Is that the time to consider redevelopment? I don't think we're quite at that point for Mount Colnet yet. The second is there is an agreement with BC Housing when the land was converted in the late, I believe it was sometime in the early 2000s, from a lease to ownership. There is an agreement that BC Housing will continue to pay the mortgage on that land. And I'm not sure how many more years that goes for, but it's probably kind of in the 10 to 15 year range. There's that consideration as well. It's not a large site. There's quite a big gully down to the creek and behind the property. And so in terms of net new units that could be gained, really with the only option, tearing down the existing building and building it up wouldn't be that significant. So it hasn't been on THC's list of nearer term redevelopment priorities. I think it's more a longer term potential.
Great. Thank you for clarifying the constraints within that particular piece of property. Much appreciated.
Super. Councillor Sawyer.
Well, thank you. Just a comment, I want to say thanks and welcome back. And I was really pleased with the report, seeing, as you said, that we've recognized the need to assess where we're building and how we're building. And I think that it's just really great to hear that insight and the recognition of DL 114 as an environmentally valued area in town. Thank you.
Super. Any other comments for Mr. Scott? I see none. Again, great to see your face up there, and thanks for all your hard work. It's very much appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 10.2, minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held October 21st, 2024. No presentation. This is just for receiving. And proceed to amend the municipal. Do we have a presentation?
Oh, if I may, Mayor, these are recommendations from the committee of the whole to council, and if council chooses to adopt those recommendations today, they'll be certified.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I got it. I absolutely have it. Okay, perfect. Okay. Then we have two recommendations. Somebody like to read those recommendations?
Sure. That the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held November 21st, 2024 be received.
Second by Councillor Anderson. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion carried.
And that staff be authorized to proceed with amendments of the municipal alcohol policy as discussed in the October 21st, 2024 committee of the whole meeting. And that staff proceed with public engagement window based on these amendments.
Second by Councillor Anderson. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. Excellent. No bylaws for adopting. Well, we don't have any unfinished business, I believe, but we do have some business initiated by council members. Councillor McMaster.
Yes, I attended the Housing Central Conference in Vancouver last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, November 17th to 20th. And I was presenting on a panel that the title was Local Government and First Nation Solutions for Housing. So my fellow presenters were from the City of Vancouver, City of Burnaby, Squamish First Nation, and myself. And we had a packed house, had good conversations, and yeah, what we're doing seems very small compared to everybody else, but percentage-wise, we're doing a really good job. As we are housing about 6% of the population of Tofino at the moment. And the talks were all really good. I attended a lot of finance talks, got better understanding of financing from CMHC and BC Builds. And I attended one talk on other sources of funding and learned a little bit about community grants, which I haven't quite got my head around yet. But in Ontario, this is used quite extensively to fund housing and also capital projects. So basically, if people that have some money, it doesn't really matter how much money, but if you're community minded, you can buy some bonds if you're prepared to accept a lower rate of interest, say 1% instead of something you wouldn't get at the bank. And this could go to projects. And I was saying about housing, but I also thought of the gym and possibly the multiplex that people might want. So I think we need to explore that a little bit more.
Super. Housing and recreation bonds. That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks. And is
So I'll look into this a bit more and probably talk to Nala about it.
sure. And is that run by the municipalities and the local
Well, it's
government?
run by a company out of Ontario called Tapestry, but Robert Brown's new company has a similar scheme. I think it's called Propopolis or something like that.
Oh, great.
And they've sort of, Robert Brown was up there, always, Patrick was up there, and they've invested in some housing, and they've also invested in Alberta in some agricultural projects.
Very interesting. Excellent. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that. Any other business initiated by council members? Nothing? Okay. Then we're moving on to question period. Ms. Coachette?
Thank you, Raylaw. I will now make an open call for questions. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there is anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to ask a question, we can do so now using the Q&A function. Before asking a question, you will need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you are speaking to. I will now do a call, calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. No one signed up for questions, Raylaw.
Okay, well then we're moving on to closed session.
Mayor, if I may, just before moving us into close, there's a clerical error on the recommendation here. I'll just get whichever council member chooses to move us into close, I'll just get you to remove section 92B and the final bullet point in that recommendation. My apologies.
Sorry,
92B.
remove it?
Yes, so in closed, we won't be discussing anything relating to section 92B of the community charter, just 91A.
And then the 3 bullet points remain?
Remain except for the final bullet point we can remove.
The 2 bullet points?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Well, does anybody want to do that, or should I just move from the chair?
I can.
Go ahead.
I move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91AC of the community charter to discuss matters relating to personal information about an individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent, employee relations.
Second by Mr. Thomas. Any further comments? All in favor?